just for Felix, your pilot, you have to know together that the altitude of the flight will be 1,000
feet.
Yes, feet. So it's 300 meters. Okay, let's go. I'll let you explain.
So, Felix, we're going to come along the corridor here. We'll shoot some views this way, and we'll come around a few times then before going on.
Okay. The weather is good today, and we never know because you need to be on the air to have an idea of the cloudy, the pollution.
But we shoot for the light.
Yeah, for sure.
So it should work. It's actually now we see some thin overcast, which actually would be nice.
I think so
for
too.
the housing.
Yes, I think
it's
so
good
too.
for the details.
D'accord.
It's okay. Yeah. So we're ready to go.
Quand j'ai eu la chance de faire un petit tour en hélicoptère avec toi au-dessus du quartier Sénarche, et bien sûr j'avais emporté mon appareil photo pour jouer les petits Alex MacLean. Et ce qui m'a le plus surpris dans mes essais de photographe, c'est que je n'arrivais jamais à cadrer, à savoir comment cadrer le paysage, puisque au fond, il n'y a plus de vertical quand on est en hélicoptère. Et l'horizon, il est lointain. Et il n'y a pas de ciel non plus, puisqu'on est dans le ciel. Donc on voit, on ne sait pas comment cadrer. Donc il y a une technique, il y a une façon de faire qui m'étonne.
One of the techniques that I use when I feel like I lose track of the horizon is I take the camera up, I find the horizon, level the camera to the horizon and come back down and then hold it level again. That is one way to do it. And sometimes there's the temptation, you see an element on the ground such as a road and you want to put that road right down the side of the frame, but when you do that then you're tilting the camera to the horizon and all the buildings will tilt. So that's a temptation. So you have to just sort of have that awareness of where the horizon is. The helicopter would have to, if I'm on the left side, the helicopter needs to be a little like this so I can look forward.
Okay. Yes, we need to be.
You know, yeah. So that's why I just said a little. But maybe you can just turn the helicopter. No. It's not like an airplane. It's not like an airplane.
Yes.
It's quite different asking a helicopter pilot to move to a position than an airplane pilot because you have to move so much faster in an airplane. It's harder to go to a point. You have to do it in big circles where the helicopter can move like this. So it's definitely easier in a sense to work with a pilot in a helicopter than to work with a pilot in a plane. And for me, you cut to the chase by flying yourself. You just go to where you want to be. So that works well. Now I have a plane with a stick. I used to have a control yoke, but you sort of can move to where you want to be, and then when it comes time to take your picture, you just have your camera and you take your picture and you're back onto the stick to move to the next frame. So, but you know, as you go, you can go for 10 seconds maybe, shooting, back to the plane, and you have a sense of how you're flying while you're looking through the lens as well.
Alors comment se sont passés les vols, Alex?
Well, the flights went well.
Yeah.
We had a variety of weather, which was important, just to give it variety, and also it's important photographically to be able to have some days have light shadows so you can see into the urban areas, and then other bright crystal days so you can see distances into Paris and show those relationships. And on the flights, we varied our altitude from 1,000 feet up to 2,500 feet. The higher you go, you get a larger view, lower, really focus in on details within La Défense.
Comment tu as interprété ce paysage en se promenant et en faisant les premiers clichés comme ça?
Well, to start with, the first several hours of flying is discovery, and you're exploring and you're beginning to see the commonalities and the elements that are are landmarks, the main features to help orient yourself. And you look at things like the infrastructure, the roadways, the rail tracks, the public institutions, the prisons, the parks, and all these things start to give you bearing as to the layout of the area, of the territory. And that is very helpful in orienting you. But when you start to look at a lot of the issues that are taking place there, you begin to realize there is some chaos.
D'accord, d'accord. Donc on prendra un axe en premier.
This is a GPS which will track the flight on the GPS, and then I can put the longitude right into the metadata of the pictures, which will then also give me the city and location. It will fill that in for me as well.
Donc ça c'est le trajet de l'hélicoptère, c'est ça? Et donc vous êtes allé très loin, beaucoup plus loin que la Défense elle-même.
We went, you can see in this one, we went quite a ways south, went across the river to capture long views, and then all the way down to the far end of the Seine. And if we look at other views, if we look at some of the other tracks, you can see how extensively we did cover. That starts thickening up. This sort of gives you an idea as to where we concentrated on, right around La Défense.
Et ça fait combien d'heures de vol?
I think it was roughly about 10 hours, and we shot over 2,000 images. I think it was about 2,400 images. We selected that down to 700, which we edited down for you. And then also what we did was we kept the GPS logs, and we were able to put the longitude into each of the photographs, so we know exactly where they were taken, and we divided the photographs into different views. We have the high overviews, which in this version are the red dots. These are the mid-level views, the blue dots, and then the green dots are the close-in views. So we can go knock these out. These are all logged in on Google Earth, and then you can click on the image and actually see the images. The question I have is, how do you think these pictures will get utilized amongst the the planners? And
I think it can be very useful to develop projects, which handle with this.
Right.
So it's always good to have a real new point of views.
Right.
C'était un autre regard. Très souvent, les architectes, on travaille avec des plans et des coupes, des documents cartographiques. Et vos photographies devenaient pour nous un outil assez intéressant parce que tout d'un coup, on rentrait dans la matière urbaine.
Here, where you can see the relationship of the river at the second bend here, and the interesting is the agriculture that comes right down to the river, as opposed to the far bank on the La Défense side.
C'est intéressant pour nous parce que nous on travaille sur cette partie-là du territoire, ce qui est entre les deux bras de la Seine. Mais ce qui se passe de l'autre côté, je ne sais pas si vous avez entendu parler des études sur le Grand Paris, mais on voit très bien la suite ici, les champs cultivés, la Seine qui va partir vers Paris, Rouen, Le Havre. Et c'est intéressant de voir ce territoire en fonction de ce qui est au-delà. Et ces photos-là montrent ça très bien.
Alors là, il y a une photo qui m'intéresse bien, c'est une photo de chantier. On voit sur cette photo une multitude de baraques, de chantiers, d'ouvriers, de grues, etc. Et on voit aussi des tas de terre. Sur des photos, quand l'espace est totalement fini, comme celui notamment sur cette autre photo là, où les terrasses sont achevées, on a l'impression que tout est simple, hein, que finalement c'est propre, c'est lisse. Et là, il y a le travail. J'aime bien quand on voit la ville en train de se construire.
In this picture, you know, my intent really was to show the complexity of the process. You know, you think about the water management, the electric lines, and all the invisible infrastructure that, you know, you have to rearrange and bury for this project.
Allez, là, on se rapproche de la Défense.
Well, here you can see that contrast between the high-rise buildings and the buildings in the foreground, more traditional housing community patterns, and even stepping back a little, you can sense that still more.
Ces photos montrent bien l'échelle de la Défense qui est une sorte de grand vaisseau posé au milieu de la ville dont on voit bien... On voit bien l'échelle et qui en même temps, elle n'est pas si grande et on voit que la ville l'entoure de tous les côtés, que c'est finalement quelque chose d'assez, de très compact, la Défense.
Il y a une photo de vous, très intéressante, qui est à côté du CNIT, derrière le CNIT, où on voit les gratte-ciels, on voit le CNIT, on voit le boulevard, on voit l'infrastructure du fer, et on voit les petites maisons.
Yeah.
Et évidemment, le boulevard circulaire qui, là, il est un peu en autopont. Et c'est assez intéressant parce que cette image, si on la montre à n'importe qui, il dirait « mais qu'est-ce que c'est que ce paysage chaotique ?» Et votre photo, tout d'un coup, elle montrait un équilibre.
Right.
Un équilibre entre plusieurs échelles de territoire, plusieurs types de pratiques de territoire, dans un environnement, dans un sorte de climat qui devenait équilibré. Et donc nous, on a proposé à l'EHPAD que ce climat, que cette ambiance, il fallait plutôt travailler avec et non pas essayer de trouver de la continuité.
No, I think the strategy here is to, you know, piece it together by the elements and the contrasts that you see.
And I think your pictures, some of them, are very clear about this matter, which is sometimes a contrast, sometimes superposition, sometimes a kind of a conflict, sometimes balance. Right. And I think it's very interesting for us because, you know, in France, this kind of landscape are not accepted. You know, La Défense is a kind of objet trouvé. Objet trouvé, it's a kind of singularity in the territory of Paris. And I think your pictures, with your pictures, we can explain a kind of phenomenology of space.
What was that?
Phenomenology, how is space poetic?
Poetic, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's true, for sure. I think what's interesting here is that, you know, obviously you recognize the problems that have come about, just changes in attitudes. Obviously with climate change, we're thinking about how we have to be green now. The high-rises have to be green. And we've also, through the years, have learned how to do urbanism better. I mean, one of the things we know now is we have to have mixed uses. You know, not segregate our spaces, which I think this La Défense has suffered from. And I think there's a realization that this needs to be corrected, if I'm not mistaken. And then the other thing, too, is on the periphery, you see sort of segregation of economic groups, which is problematic. And I think we also realize that, you know, that needs to be addressed and changed. And it's apparent in the pictures. You can see all these social problems.
Yeah.
And it will change. I'll be interested to see how it goes going forward. I hope I can come back in 5 years and photograph some of the new changes.
Yeah, of course.
That would be great.
It's always very slow because, like you said, planning and changing the territory.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's 5, 10, 20 years.
That's why I said 5 years. Though I would love to come back next year.
Okay.